Hi, my name is Paul Berry, and I'm an executive business coach, and I'm thrilled to be here on the Prosperity online TV show. And I'm here today to really do something maybe that isn't kind of normal. I'm here to really create a intriguing and different approach to being brilliant in the world and highly productive.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we're joined by somebody whose presence is both a challenge and an inspiration. Now, Paul, how are you doing, my man?
I'm very good, Prosper, and it's good to be with you.
Absolutely. Well, the pleasure is all mine. This has been a long time in the works, right? We were trying to get it, but holidays, and now we're finally getting it going. So I really appreciate having you on the show today. But before we start, Paul, I mean, obviously you've got a bit of something that you wanted to let our audiences know, and then we jump straight into it.
Yeah, well, I think the thing, Prosper, is for people to know that I'm going to share a little bit about my life. And, like all of us, we've had a life. And, I had something that happened in my life that was a turning point for me. And it wasn't one of the positive, it was one of the negatives. And I just wanted people to know that it could be potentially triggering when I talk about it. It's not designed to trigger anybody, but we're human beings and, it can do. And I just want people to know that if that happens, I get it, appreciate it. And there's a world behind what I'm sharing that I really want to leave people with rather than the actual incident.
Absolutely. Well, I really do appreciate you coming forth with such a disclaimer, because so many people go through stuff and some people haven't quite dealt with it. But that's besides the point. For those that are watching right now, strap yourselves in, because Paul Berry is a powerhouse in performance consulting and executive coaching. Now, I want you to imagine somebody who has actually spent 25 years speaking to and coaching over 100,000 people. I was trying to wrap my head around this number, and Paul just made it easy for me. He says, hey, just think of people in the MCG. And I was like, whoa, that's a lot of people. Yeah, so it's the size of a stadium of people that he's spoken to. And these range from CEOs to Olympic champions. And he even mentioned an episode where he spoke to a 90-year-old. Now, talk about reverse mentoring and going through different aspects of a life. Now, this is the person that's sitting right across from you right now, and they're getting ready to share with you how he actually unearths brilliance in others and transforms potential into peak performance. Now, his story is not about all these accolades that we're talking about, and I'm not even qualified to even start. I mean, 100,000 people, that's a lot of buses, that's a lot of trams in Melbourne. That's just a lot of transportation. We wouldn't be able to fly all of those people from Melbourne Airport, but he's spoken to each and every one of them at an individual basis. So he might have something for you. So by the end of this conversation, you are not only going to feel like you've been coached by Paul himself, but you also see why he is the go-to for those that are seeking clarity, courage, and sustainable growth. Now, Paul, at the MCG, they usually have a, what do you call it? A horn, boo, 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 boo.
A siren.
Oh, a siren to either signify the start of a game or end of a game. And we've got people that are waiting to hear your journey here. Tell us a little bit about what sparked your journey into coaching and how it's going so far.
Yeah, great. Well, I mean, let's go back a little bit. I'm the eldest of three. You can tell I've got an accent. I'm originally from London, and I met the love of my life in London. We spent 10 years together there, and she's from Melbourne. And Ours was a whirlwind romance. So we met, we were living together within 3 weeks. We were engaged within 3 months, married within a year. And this April will be 25 years. We've been creating our life together as husband and wife. So, but, back when I was, growing up, life was great. My mum and dad, the usual sort of stuff. And then my mum and dad separated. Um, I was 11. Didn't really impact me. My dad was really great. He worked hard. My grandmother lived with us. Um, and, my grandmother, even though she was, gosh, 60 years older than me, she loved us. So, my dad worked 16 hours a day, 7 days a week to keep it all together. And my grandmother was very much a cornerstone of my life, very strong woman, very loving, very, capable and resilient. And my dad did the best he could for us. And then one day, something happened that really altered my life. And as you said, Prosper, it moved me on a different trajectory of my life than where I was going. At that stage, I was training to be a quantity surveyor, which is basically a surveyor that counts lots of things and works out how much it's going to cost. And then, so this is what I'm about to say, which I kind of let people know could potentially be triggering. One day when I was 19, my brother took his life. And it was a major incident in my life that literally impacted myself, my brother, my sister, my grandmother. It was her son. And whoever that guy was before that happened, I definitely wasn't that guy afterwards. I definitely wasn't. I became very angry, very withdrawn from people, and very distrustful. And that was my life for the next 13 years. In fact, I changed my career and became a London taxi driver, which, took 3 years of study. But I kind of say I was in a black coffin. I had my back to the public. I was surrounded by plate glass window, which is impregnable. And that was my life. I turned my back on people. And I would have died that way. I would have just gone on in life. And obviously it had a massive impact on my relationships with people, with partners, with, women that I dated, and my family. And then fortunately one day I had a very dear friend who was an ex-girlfriend, but we'd become very good friends. And she did a transformational program and she pestered me like crazy to do it. And finally I did. I signed up for it and I did it and didn't expect to get too much. I'd already walked over white hot coals. I'd lived in the jungle with the tribes people in Sibera Island when it probably didn't have a hotel on it many years ago. And I couldn't see how it make any difference. And this transformational program was transformational. I walked in one way and I walked out different. And the guy who walked in, he was angry, distrustful of people, had turned his back on them, walked out in love with life. And I really do mean, Prosper, in love with life. It was like everything seemed different. I had left all the baggage behind. I had been able to separate what happened with my dad from all the significance that I attached, that maybe I should have done this or I should have done that, or maybe he really didn't love me. And I walked out with the fact that it did happen. It always will happen. It's never going to be unhappened. And I'm free. And I looked at people differently and I saw them for the first time. And I really rediscovered my love for people.
Wow.
And that for me was priceless. You can keep your mansions and you can keep your cars and your exotic holidays, because what I discovered for me was priceless.
Wow. See, and thank you so much for taking us on that journey. I mean, obviously, as a cab driver, you really knew how to navigate the streets of this particular, message. and I really appreciate that. Now, you mentioned that you had two other siblings. How did how did this affect them when this happened?
Yeah, it affected them equally, but in different ways. Equally impactful, but it showed up in different ways.
Right. And obviously for you, this was something that obviously you took to heart and you decided to just close off the world. Did anything sort of happen in between that? Because sometimes, I mean, obviously you were a taxi driver, but some people would take to some sort of substance or things that will become a crutch. Was you just driving the streets of London the escape that you were looking for?
Let me look. So first of all, to be a London taxi driver, there's nothing like it in the world.
Mm.
It takes 3 years. You got to learn every street in London from 6 miles of Charing Cross station, and that takes a year and a half and all the most important points. So that was a great way for me to lose myself and just not have to think about what had happened because it was all consuming. You'd be
Mm.
out on your bike at 5 a.m. in the morning with your friend, traversing all across London, and then you'd end up back at his place, which we did in his garage, and test each other from about 4 in the afternoon to about 7. And his dad was bring us a cup of tea and a cake to sustain us. And then you go home and, wind down, go to bed and do the same thing. And that was 7 days a week. You live it, you eat it, you sleep it, you breathe it.
See, Paul, I'm just looking at that. I can't even go to the calls up there without plugging in my GPS and
Yeah. Yeah. Then you start the exams, which is another year and a half, but that's another story. So your question was, did I rely on drugs or alcohol? No. See, I was responsible for a brother and a sister and an 80-year-old grandmother, and I was not going to duck that responsibility. And I
Mm,
wasn't going to go down that path. I could have done. Hey, did I like to have a Jack Daniels now and again? Yeah, like I suppose any other person, but it wasn't. No, I was up in the morning and I was studying, and then I did my exams, and I got my badge, and then I went out to work, and I went out to work to provide for my family.
absolutely, absolutely, and it takes a redemptive amount of energy to be very selfless, like you were. But you did explain, or say this period of your time was when you gave the world your back, but it does look like you still had your family to look after. So maybe the world, yes, but you still didn't give everybody
Oh,
your back
I
then.
was I was ferociously protective and passionate about my grandmother and my brother and my sister. I was the link, and it's always. I think Prosper. Maybe it was in the background before what happened with my dad, but it's definitely been a constituent of me, which is I'm loyal. I don't quit things. I don't quit on people. Um, you know, but I protected myself by turning my back on them, and I didn't want to get my heart broken again, and I didn't want anyone to do that to my grandmother or my brother or my sister. So I threw myself into studying the streets of London for the next. I mean, there was obviously some time where I had to find out how you sell a house, how you pay debts. I was 19. It was a learning curve. But then that took about a year, and then I threw myself into the knowledge, which is what it's known as. And I got my badge, I think, when I was 88, 64, 74, 84, 24. And then I knew that's it. I knew I could always provide for my family, you see.
Wow, that's a long time, and you're right. It really spells down to your loyalty and the commitment. Now, while you were driving, things were happening. People were coming in and out of your taxi or whatever it is. just working on this. And then you had the friend who brought you in. Were people seeing that you were not being yourself, or was
Yeah.
that just a friend being there
No,
for you?
it was amazing, actually, Prosper. People would get in my taxi. Now, a lot of the conversations are transient. In it sometimes that because they can only be 10 or 15 minutes and someone's on the phone or they're doing their own stuff. Okay, I get it. Some of it is the acoustics are terrible. So you don't even hear what someone's saying. But there were enough times on enough occasions where people would go out of their way to say, why are you doing this? You seem like there's way more you could offer. And there were two ways I kind of ended up being about it. One is I ended up being kind of defensive. I wouldn't say it to them, but I'd be a bit defensive, like, well, if you knew what it took, for example, 3 years of your life, and the kind of way you had to get through it, it was intense. But the other side of it was, yeah, I know I had more potential. I just didn't know what it was. And I couldn't put my finger on it. I knew it was there. Um, and there were some very profound conversations, with people who, I don't know, they just seemed to kind of know me before they even met me. It was weird. I couldn't work it out. I just couldn't. But there was enough of it happening that after a while it was like, yeah, I just don't know what it is, but I don't want to go to the end of my life in my black coffin. Because, Prosper, after the first four, I drove that taxi for about 13, maybe 14 years. After the first 3 or 4 years, it lost its it lost its sparkle because you could ask me to go anywhere and I could tell you where it was, and if I couldn't, I'd be like, just tell me where it's near and I'll get you there. I could deal with any kind of human being. I've had the good, the bad, and the ugly. I
Mm,
could write a book on the things that happen in the back of that cab, some of which would be X-rated and some would be just like eye-opening and some would be really moving.
mm,
So it was really about that stage where I knew in my heart I did not want to get to the end of my life doing something that it was a good living, but it just didn't fulfill me at all. It was a job.
mm. But some people wouldn't come to that sort of resolve. They'll just be, it is what it is. This is what it's always going to be. And obviously, besides the friend that came in sort of to the rescue, you would have
Yeah.
had an inner voice that was obviously telling you and validating the fact that what other people were telling you about you being able to do more, have more, and be more. So many people don't know how to listen to that voice. Did that occur to you?
Yeah. So let me say something about that, Prosper, because you touched on something poignant. So there's like you could say two voices sometimes that we have in our head. There's one that's definitely you, and then there's the one you listen to. I
Right.
know this is a little bit kind of advanced, but yeah, the one that you listen to is the one that tells you to snooze your alarm clock or not go to the gym or you should really stay up and watch the movie even though you should go to bed, although you've watched the movie 5 times already in your life. It's the one that tells you that, because somebody didn't invite you out, that means that they don't like you. It's the one at work where, you know, it seems like you've got to protect yourself from the other department. It's the one if you look in a professional setting that is don't say too much about yourself in the workplace in case someone uses it against you. For
Mm.
example, right? You with me?
Right, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And it's a very loud voice, isn't it?
Well, half of the time it actually screams self-doubt. And
Yeah.
when doubting yourself, that actually then cripples so many people and they feel like an imposter
Yeah.
in places where they, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So then that's really loud screams, and I think that's well said. Then there's this other voice which is like almost only just above zero volume. That's the one that's the positive, but it gets drowned. in all the self-doubt, all the negativeness, all the wariness, all the distrust. Because look, Prosper, I'm 60 now, okay? Turned 60 in May. But I've had a lot of life, and I'm sure you've had a lot of life. I mean, I know you were from Zimbabwe, right? And I, read about when you first came here and you were washing dishes, and you took an initiative to put a Facebook post up, which, thought would be great. And you got sacked only for your boss to realize sometime after that the reviews were really great, generating more people visiting, and they got you back. So, we've all got a life and we've all had things happen. So once some things happen and then some more things happen, when you're young and then you're a teenager, just unfortunately you become wary. You just become that way. You've had the school of hard knocks teach you. So I had this really gorgeous person who was my ex-girlfriend of 5 years, who was an angel for me after my father taking his life. She was there pestering me to try to get through this, I don't know, stubborn facade that I'd put together to protect myself. And finally, she managed to get through that stubborn facade and touch my heart. And that was the moment where I just trusted her. And she was the person I trusted the most. So that little voice, while you shouldn't be driving a London, while that voice is telling you shouldn't be driving a London taxi, the other one is so loud. It's a good career. No one can tell you what to do. All you have to do is step outside, start the engine, you can start earning money. Hey, you can go away when you want. You can have as long as you want. You can start when you want. You can finish when you want. And that's what it kept saying to me.
Bringing you back to that comfort zone, which is so nice and cushy, but this is not what's supposed to happen to you.
Yeah.
When you went through that transformation, could you maybe just walk us through why this was different? Because it seems like it was a big pattern break. You've had two pattern breaks so far. I mean, obviously, Dad, and then now this pattern break that is now bringing you back into reality, that jolt that a lot of people really need. You mentioned you had walked on coals that didn't even do anything for you. You lived in the jungle that even didn't do anything for you, but this was different. What was different about it?
Well, see, when I walked over white hot coals, and I mean, you could not stand, let's talk in meters. If you stood a meter from the beginning of it, you could feel the heat and the intensity of these coals, right? They're white hot.
Yeah.
Now, I walked across those 3 times without burning my feet. Now, I knew something ridiculously powerful had happened. I couldn't explain it. And worse, I couldn't use it. It wasn't tangible. I couldn't apply it to my life.
Okay, so half of the times we might come across things that might change us and move us, but if we haven't got the words for it or we haven't become that person, it might be difficult for us to see it.
Let me give you it easier. How many books have you read that have told you what you should do in a particular area, and as you're reading it, you should do it, and then you don't do it?
Oh, man, you have no idea. I have trauma evidence of things that
I'll give you an idea, and for people listening to it, let's talk about relationships, which is a key area for people. There are literally hundreds of thousands of books out there about relationships, right? Yeah, last time I looked, and it's been a little while now, but I think you can get the sense of it, that the divorce rate was 1 in 2 people. Let's talk about health. Again, hundreds of thousands of books out there, okay? Australia may still be the most obese nation in the world. Maybe we just drop back behind the United States, okay? See, everybody knows lots of stuff. And I'm going to say something controversial. What you know doesn't make any difference anyway.
It's what you apply.
Yeah, but here's the problem. There's a big jump before you can get to applying anything. Because if you know that you should get up when the alarm goes off and you've scheduled to go to the gym that day and that's your day to go to the gym, all there is to do is to get up when the alarm goes off and go down the gym. It's just that simple, isn't it?
Mm.
In reality, isn't it just that simple?
And, well, yes, that would be the logical thing to
Well,
happen. Of course.
let's just test it out. Let me ask you to raise your right hand. Just put your right hand up in the air for me. Okay, now lower it. Now, was there anything complex about that?
I had to do a motion, but it is something that, yeah, nothing was complex. Yeah.
That's right. So getting up when the alarm goes off is not complex. You just get up when the alarm goes off.
Yeah, but Paul, you haven't seen the night I had before. You don't know my kids, and you don't know where I'm going to work later on. And I've only just started sleeping at 4 a.m., and the blankets have taken me in as one of their own.
Yeah. Yeah. So now your life is going to be dictated by all that you just said, all those reasons, all those explanations. And that's what people do. They will find reasons and explanations to not fulfill what they want.
I heard a wise man say excuses only sound best to the person that's saying them. To the rest of everybody else, they're just like you. When I was trying to be empathetic to the listener, you were like, those are excuses, mate.
Yeah, now it doesn't mean to say I'm not sensitive to the fact you went to bed at 4 o'clock and couldn't sleep. It's not sensitive to the fact you got children and there may be priorities. But see, I am that people are brilliant. I don't have a problem with that. I, I just am. People are brilliant. That's just flat footed for me, like the air I breathe. The problem I have is people are not being brilliant and they're not being highly productive.
Hmm.
I
No,
have a problem with
mhm.
that. That's a problem for me because when I did this transformational program, I walked in not thinking I was brilliant. In fact, thinking I was really less than everybody, like my head down rather than up. I was definitely not being brilliant. Not at all. I kept women on arm's distance and pretended I wasn't. And I was not highly productive. I was stuck in a career I didn't want to be in, drowning in it, miserable, looking forward to getting home. But which, by the way, consisted of a dog.
Mm,
That was my life, not a partner,
a
a
dog.
dog. So when I this mo this 3 days that happened for me, which was the course design, there's a lot that gets presented to you to consider that is very provoking and evoking. Now, it kind of gets you riled up, because no, that's not true. You know, my dad really didn't love me. If he loved me, he wouldn't have done that. No, it's really not true. That my relationship with my ex-girlfriend failed because I wasn't attentive to her. No, she started to get interested in another guy. And if she hadn't, we would have stayed together. By the way, not the person who introduced me to the course, someone else. And this was real life for me. So, I spent about a day wrestling with it and thinking it was the biggest load of nonsense I've ever heard in my life. Because I was clear the way I saw life was the way it was. Now, you're welcome to have that perspective, but you'll only ever see life from your own perspective. You'll never see it from any other perspective.
It's like those blinkers they have on horses on Melbourne Cup. It's
Yeah,
only
that's right. That's
because
right.
they
Except
you don't.
except
Yeah.
unfortunately, you don't know you got blinkers on because for you and for me And for people, the way it is the way it is.
So you went
Yeah.
in, and those 3 days transformed you, and you walked
Yeah.
out a changed person. Did you?
Basically, I got to see over those 3 days as things were presented to me that maybe my truth wasn't the truth. And this is where I want to come back to something I said earlier, Prosper, about knowledge. I know it's controversial what I'm saying, but listen, do you have to have knowledge to know what 2 + 2 equals and the rest of it? Of course, right? But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the kind of access to you being able to break out of a paradigm that will not give you high performance into one that does, right? So that's what that course was designed, and it presented enough over a period of time that I got to inquire into what allowed for that transformation where I walked in one way and walked out different was a thing that is called discovery. Now, I know lots of coaches do strategies and process and, vision boards. Okay. No problem. The only issue I have is who's the person that's applying the strategy? Who's the person that's putting up the vision board? Who's that person? See, I know from enough experience of working with 100,000 people from all walks of life, really top end of high performers to people maybe more like you and I, someone's grand, someone's grandfather who was 90, right? Our life experiences have us become someone. And that's where we end up. We never question it. It just is the way it is. And then unfortunately, we're about surviving whatever we've got to survive, the threat of a failed relationship or the threat of looking stupid at work or anything like that. So, what I like to approach people with is you're brilliant because somebody in that course thought I was. And they wanted to work inside the design of the course to reveal to me what I had got stuck with that was displacing my brilliance.
No. Oh, I know. Obviously, this works in unique ways because each and every one of us is an individual. See, not two fingers on the same hand are of the same height. And you would have maybe come from London town, and if you look at the lay of the land here in Australia, there's two things that really confront me when everybody says she'll be all right, mate, or the whole tall poppy syndrome type setup, which allows people to just live within the whole space where they don't fix it because she'll be all right, or if they want to elevate, somebody's gonna nip them.
Yeah, well, do you know
Where's
where
the
the tall
brilliance
poppy
there?
syndrome elevates? The tall poppy syndrome, which is only an Aussie thing, you can't find it in the UK. Basically, if you look at a field of poppies, you see one that's sticking out above the others, it looks the other one out. But it actually originated from the days when people were sent from the UK to Australia as convicts. And what they would do is they would have the convicts be chained together and take them outside. And if anybody stepped out of line, they would take two or maybe three people in the chain gang who did not step out of line and they would beat them. And it would set an example to everybody else that if you step out of line, someone else is going to get beaten. So what you had is the convicts regulating themselves.
So the whole society, the whole mechanism is stemming off of a control mechanism that is imparted by other human beings.
Well, I don't know. That's not really my field of expertise. But what I do know is that when those convicts were released into society, they had a choice to go back to the motherland, which was, the United Kingdom, or stay in Australia and have a go. And the vast majority of them decided to stay rather than have a 6 month boat ride and possibly perish on the way. But then, it became that whatever became the norm to them when they were convicts, they took outside with them. So, you know, should be right. Don't let anybody know what's really going on with you. You know,
So there's people that are living a life that is not designed for them, and they're not questioning it.
well, it's just working out how to get through the day. Listen, if you're locked up, all day long, and you get a chance to go out with some privileges, I don't want you messing it up for me. So you mess it up for me, Prosper, I'm going to mess you up.
Absolutely. But obviously, the reason why I'm bringing this about is somebody will just look at or listen to this conversation and will be like, but these guys are not even Australian anyway. So how would they know what it's like, for people like us? Because people like us do things like this.
Yeah,
Maybe have you had a specific story of a client transformation? Because you transformed, but does this work on other humans? That's the
yeah,
next question
yeah.
now.
Let me
Yeah.
just say something, Prosper, before we go on. I talked a lot about the transformational program that I did, okay? So, I was involved and really created that and led those programs for, I was involved for 25 years. I led those programs for 20 years all over the world. Okay. Now, I've repositioned myself. I resigned and completed my employment there after 25 years in October. And I repositioned myself in the world now as you've got to call yourself something. Okay. So I call myself an executive coach. But really, what I'm about is people being brilliant and being highly productive. So I've been able to take what I trained and developed myself in skill sets. Like I can hear what people are not saying.
Hmm. So many people think they're doing or putting the best effort they could, but they might actually not be.
Well, there's something in the background that's running you in the foreground, and I can just hear it. I can't switch it off now. I spent 25 years being trained and developed to do it, and it's now fundamental to who I am. Doesn't make me any better than anybody else. It's just a skill set. Put me on a basketball pitch and I'm useless.
Well, I mean, obviously, right now, talking to you, I can feel the empathy, which is the cornerstone of the methods that you actually showcase. And I sometimes have to actually pinch myself and say, hey, whose show is this? Because Paul is running the show right now. How is it that it's now become easy for you to connect with people, yet you never connected before?
Well, I got something fundamental out of the way, which is you're going to hurt me and I don't trust you. And
Mm.
then when I got that out of the way, there was just this blank canvas that I had an opportunity to discover you. What's it like being married with children, hosting a podcast, coming from Zimbabwe, coming to a country that you don't have any affiliation with? The people look at you, and because you're black, they look at you differently.
Mm-hmm.
Most white people never will understand what that's like. You wake up every day and it's just there because you're black. White people don't wake up with that.
Mm. Don't worry, I'm reminded every single moment of my life because my wife is Italian and my kids are half. So
Yeah, yeah. But I have an appreciation. I'm not arrogant enough to say I can really experience your experience, but I can go a long way to really get myself down the road of caring enough to experience what your experience must be like just to wake up with a different color skin.
mm.
So that when I work with you, to have you be brilliant I'm informed by that. I'm sensitive to that.
Right.
I'm not trying to operate on top of it. And I know what that means for a lot of people. I don't know for you, Prosper, is you just got to try harder than everybody else.
But also, while we're doing that, there's usually limiting beliefs that some people already hang on to because that's the story they've always been telling themselves. I mean, obviously, my skin color cannot get in the way of me creating amazing content and connecting with amazing people like yourself. But some people could use that and be like, I don't know if people are gonna want to work with me, or they're gonna think I'm the Nigerian prince who's gonna come into their
Ah,
pocket, or you know what I mean? What are some of the limiting beliefs that you see amongst maybe the people that you speak to? Because fish do not see the water that they swim in, and neither
correct.
can we see the air that we breathe. So some
Correct.
people might not see certain
Yeah.
things, which then present as a limiting belief.
I can absolutely guarantee 100% people don't see limiting beliefs. They see some of them, but they see, here's my evidence. Someone says, oh, yeah, but I see what I'm limited by. My brother was always more popular than me and I never felt as any good. Or, I started out my own business and it didn't work out. Okay. But you see, if you really do see a limiting belief, it should stop limiting you because once you see it, it's got to lose its grip on you.
Wow.
But you see, if you're still limited by it, you're not got to the very epicenter of the thing. Now, I don't need to do any of that. The company I work for are brilliant at that. They're brilliant at that. That's why it was so transformational for me. No, but I definitely will let you tell me everything you're dealing with. And I can really hear, not listen, I can hear everything you're saying, including what's not being said and the emotional experience that comes with it. The frustration of having to prove yourself, the, you know, annoyance of it. And sometimes what's there is also the enthusiasm for it, but there's a world of experience that comes with that issue, you could say.
Mm.
So mine's very simple. I just really hear what people are saying. I don't listen, I hear. There's a big difference. Most people just listen to words. I can hear the person, which,
Wow.
by the way, I love because I love people. I mean, I'm into it. It's why I do what I do. So if you can communicate with me, and it's a very safe space to do it, man, you can say anything to me and you won't get judged. For me, you're just a massively big person that can communicate what's going on without having to hide it. I'm in awe. But it brings whatever is in the background that we can't see, like water to a fish, it's transparent. You saying everything starts to move it from here to here. Now, why is that important? Because once it's here, you can see it. And when you can see it, you can act on it.
Because you can't unsee it. I mean, obviously, if it's something that is in the way, and it's like dust. When it's up there, you can't see it, but if it starts collecting on something that you can see and you put a line across it, you do something about it.
I'll give you an even simpler example. Without moving, without moving, the book that's directly behind your chair, move it.
So,
Seriously, I'm asking you to do that. The book that's behind your chair right now, I want you to move it without moving.
without moving,
Yeah, you can try and move your arms if you want. Feel free. Go ahead.
I
How's that all working out?
can reach it.
No, the book that's directly behind your chair,
Oh, that.
right behind there. Yeah, you can't. And you can't even see the book to move it. That's what it's like living life with something going on behind you and trying to perform. You can't do anything about what you can't see. You with me?
I'm with you. I'm with you. Yeah,
Right,
because
you've been great and you're humoring me. Now I'm going to ask you to swing your chair around so we'll see the back of your head and now get the book and bring it to me. Yeah. See, now you were able to perform.
right.
Now you
Mm.
imagine if you could apply that to your business.
Is that akin to the reticular activated system where half if we buy a red car, all we now see on the streets is red cars. And before we wouldn't be able to see it, but now that we've put it into our attention and our periphery, that now becomes the one thing that we actually see. Is that the same concept?
No.
Okay.
That's nice if you want to see lots of red cars. And that's nice if you want to see lots of things. See, I don't really care about all that. If I'm working with someone, I care about them performing and being brilliant and knowing themselves as being brilliant. Prosper, you have a great day. Aren't you just happy in yourself when you're productive?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm talking to you. I feel like I'm being coached by you, right? I am being coached by you right now.
Yeah.
And this has just really been remarkable in and of itself. Really showcases the depth that you can take people with and really put them out of the humdrum, which is the prefrontal cortex, and really get to the core. Because
Yeah.
there's many moments within this conversation, Paul, that I was like, oh, okay, I need to really see what's going on. Now, for those that may also have been going through the same motions that I was going through in the conversation, what would be the best way that people can get a hold of you there, Paul?
I'm on LinkedIn. All you have to do is type in LinkedIn. I think it's forward slash, what is it? Paul Berry AU. I think
Hmm?
Paul Berry AU, lowercase, or you just go into LinkedIn and type in Paul Berry. Uh, for some older listeners, Facebook,
Okay.
if you're like me. It's
Absolutely.
what
I'll
my
make
children say. I've got a 17-year-old boy and a 20-year-old daughter, and they say, Dad, you're just so old, you're a boomer because you use Facebook, you know. So I'm there, I'm LinkedIn. I've got an email. I'll say it here and I'll say it slowly. People can send me an email. It's Paul Berry, PaulBerry, consulting at outlook.com.
Okay, I'll make sure that that email is in the show notes below, and we can definitely, send people your way. Now, it's quite interesting. You've come to Australia and you said you've got a 20-year-old or you've got kids that are
Yeah,
referring.
daughter that's 20 and I got a son that's 17.
All right, 20 and 17, and they're just right in the middle of the time when you would have gotten started on your journey as the cab driver. So you started off at 19.
Not
Now,
quite. I was late to the party. So when I started working for my in my former employment, I would be traveling all over the world until we had COVID, and then we became an online program. So my daughter never knew anything different, and my son, who was obviously born 3 years after my daughter, he never knew any different. So dad was away 2 weeks out of three, or home 1 week a month in
mm,
those days, and
absolutely,
they've never known their dad to be any different than the person who's talking to you. I am no
absolutely.
different with them in my parenting. I promise you. I have to be disciplined with them. I have to be loving with them, and I got to let them. It's like fishing. You got to let the line out sometimes so they can find themselves, but you got to be ready to reel them back in and catch them.
I like that. I've got younger kids. and I'm gonna take that to heart. Now, if knowing who you are today, what you've been through, all the troubles, all the empathy that you've accumulated, the kids, the accolades, the 100,000 people you've spoken to, if 19-year-old Paul walks in to your transformation or watches this video right now, how would you greet him?
Well, when you actually said that, I just experienced being moved. Like moved with a profound amount of love for that person. And the courage it takes. See, Prosper, I don't know how people can perform in life without someone in their corner.
Mm,
Lots of people will tell themselves they can. They perform to a certain level, but they'll never ever perform at the fullest level they could. Find me any elite sports person that doesn't have at least one coach, right? Many
mm.
of them have more. So if that 19-year-old is listening, or that 30-year-old, or that 40-year-old, or that 50-year-old, or even that 90-year-old who's still working and running a business gets in touch with me, you're going to meet a phenomenon because you are the reason why I get to do what I do. And I love what I do.
It shows. It shows. And thank you so much for doing that part. And what you said, obviously, not a lot of people go and succeed by themselves. I think it's just a Western thing for the self-made or the individualistic sort of approach. But where I come from, we have a statement and a belief that if you want to go far, you go alone. But if you want to go further, you go together. And
Yeah.
you have shown that yes, you might want to close yourself off to the world, but there's always going to be that one person who sees the brilliance in you and keeps nudging you until they take you to the right path.
Yeah. It's how
But
I relate to you in this podcast. See, I'm left with an enormous amount of love for you and appreciation for you because I know what you're about is someone who wants to make a difference with people. You know, the amount of activity with you on LinkedIn, I see it all the time. I see you acknowledging people. I see you creating. The podcast is an opportunity to be able to reach people, to contribute. And it's a thing I'm struck by with you. And you're brave and courageous. You put yourself in the front line, Prosper. You do things like this. For every one of you, there's probably 1,000 people that would love to do it, but won't because they talk themselves out of it. So for me, it's a privilege to be with you and to be able to have a platform to be heard with people. And I hope I didn't say anything that would offend anybody. I'm merely out to create a different reality. And, you know, if people would like to reach out to me and ask questions or explore, you know, a little bit further, feel free to, because most it's going to cost you is maybe 15, 20 minutes of your time and maybe everything you ever wanted.
oh, absolutely. I mean, with the kind of transformation that even just talking to you, the empathy, the presence, and I really appreciate what you said about the work that we're doing here because I viscerally believe in life. We're here to live, to learn, and to contribute. So, in order for you to be able to live your best life, you really have to learn. I mean, you got me to try and take books from behind me. This has been a lifelong work of really trying to learn how to be, do, and have the best existence for myself, my family, my clients, and everybody else that comes along the way. But now is the time for us to send the elevator down, which is the contribution that you have actually helped me to do today, Paul. So I can't
Yeah.
thank you enough for the time that we spent on the call today.
Yeah, well, it's back at you, really. It's very much my privilege, and I'm thankful for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Now, we've obviously won some fans, or maybe tickled a few, but for those that are going to be connecting with you, what can people expect, Paul, moving forward? Like, what's next? You did mention or hint towards a book earlier on, or is that part of
No,
journey?
no, no, what they can expect from me if they reach out to me is something way beyond they could ever imagine for themselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I've experienced it and I've felt it. And for somebody who's watched up until right now, like we did say, we are after people that really have the attention span to change so they can be, do, and have a happier existence. And I can't thank you enough, Paul, for the time, that you've taken us. I mean, you took us on a journey. You took us on a taxi drive, through transformation. You know exactly where to go. Piccadilly Circus. We all went around the. I'm not quite sure of my London there, but at least I tried. But then it was all about resilience and the brilliance that lies within us all. But as you have mentioned, you are going to need somebody who will fan those flames for you. It's not something that you can possibly do for yourself. That's the reason why I'm going to be putting Paul's information at in the show notes so that you can actually get started on this journey. The least that he can do is show you around London town, and obviously that in and of itself is a free ride to the Big Ben, isn't it? So whether you're whether you're a business owner looking for a breakthrough, or to just break through whatever self limits that you might have, or maybe you're somebody that's just looking for clarity in your next step. I think today's conversation was a gold mine of insight. And I think if Paul's story resonated with you, or you actually think this could be an opportunity for you to help someone, just like what Paul's friend did, I encourage you to share this episode with that one person who might not be clear on what is supposed to happen next for them. All right, so just share this video with a friend. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show for more inspiring
See,
conversation.
I think Prosper, I would invite everyone to share it with everybody because someone out there can get something from this, whether they contact me or not. Let's spread it out in the world because, you never know who that one person is. Hey, I was the least likely candidate to be in this position in my life.
Mm,
Really, if there was a million people in the queue, I was 999,999 at the back. So people are brilliant. We
abs-
just get it out to people, let them all have a chance to experience some brilliance for themselves.
this reminds me of my little girl. She's always singing the song "Shine Bright Like a Diamond." That's the
Yeah.
brilliance that we all have within us. And if you're ready to unlock your brilliance, I'd consider reaching out to Paul. He's just a call away from changing your life. Until next time, keep thriving, stay inspired. Bye for now.